Salutations everybody, it is Maddie here today and I wanted to talk about the best damn thing that Bethesda did this past E3 and no one is talking about. Prey Mooncrash, a DLC to rival some of the best, even my personal favorite of all time, Burial at Sea Episode 2 from Bioshock Infinite. Mooncrash successfully takes everything amazing about Prey, which are its intelligent level design, fulfilling exploration, gripping lore, curious universe, and improves on it. My gripes with the base game, as stated in my initial review, was an ending that didn't account for choices made and enemies respawning at an extremely frustrating rate. Mooncrash manages to strip away those issues, leaving the game with its strongest pillars to stand on. So, you may be asking, what is Prey Mooncrash? It's procedural generation done at a AAA level and done properly. Now, hard pause, I get it. You may be like me. You hear procedural generation and run for the hills, because as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most overrated concepts in games. It fills them with quantity but no quality. Nothing feels handcrafted but rather randomly placed. Mooncrash, however, manages to build its narrative on procedural generation by placing you as someone contracted by the Chasma Corp, aka the rival of TranStar, to go through a sim trying to find out what happened on the Pythias moonbase, learning more about the 5 survivors who managed to escape. Upon starting up the simulation, you are able to select any of these 5 survivors. The objective is to escape the moonbase with each of these survivors, but your ultimate goal is to get all 5 out in a single, quote, run, end quote. Pretty much how it works is if you die, the simulation gets reset, and then things change every single time you fire up the simulation. Enemies are in different places, loot isn't in the same spot as the last time either. This is where Mooncrash's genius design starts to shine through. In order to escape with all 5, you need to consider the other bunch of survivors too, as they have their own unique skill sets built off this very class system. While the engineer is able to repair things, you may need to head to the Mimic portal first and repair the power box so that the volunteer can escape when it's his time to leave. However, when playing as the volunteer, he is one of the people who was experimented on the moonbase, so the detectors on the moonbase register him as a Typhon based off his powers. In your final run to have everyone escape, it may be smart to get him out first in case you need to set up any Typhon defenses for later parts of that run. The trust in the player's intelligence to strategize how they approach these wonderfully crafted areas is exactly why Mooncrash is such a standout experience. Now, I say wonderfully crafted areas, but yet I also mentioned procedural generation. How exactly is that connected? Well, one of the things I really loved about Mooncrash is how when you reset the simulation for a new run, the whole base doesn't drastically transform, where there are multiple sections of the base like Moonworks, the tram, the escape pods, etc., and they are always going to be in the same spot no matter what. So you are able to master the level design like in the original Prey while having new enemy encounters and the thrill of acquiring new loot, which I know for some may have gotten old. I can personally agree with that, but in this one, it just feels special because of the unique concept. You may be listening to this and thinking, well, this is cool, but if you stealth everyone and take your time, this game will probably be easy. It's just a unique concept. Mooncrash introduces a corruption to the simulation. Pretty much the longer you're in there, the worse things are going to get. So if you're at level 1 corruption, things are fine. Every enemy's at a base level and you can probably get through no problem. But once it hits level 2, the enemies can respawn, and stronger at that. Now, I mentioned one of my biggest issues was enemies respawning in the original Prey, and that's because it really didn't make sense even late game as far as I'm concerned. It just made it all the more frustrating. But when you tie it to a game mechanic, and one that increases the challenge and adds a sense of urgency, it's a whole different story. Because now that sense of urgency to explore, loot, learn, and escape, along with the very strategizing I was alluding to earlier, becomes a healthy and fresh challenge unlike anything else I've experienced in gaming. With those 5 escape routes, it makes you think, what if I take too much time in the middle of my run and the corruption gets too high? I should probably save someone like a security officer class who is more proficient in combat for later on than anyone else. But also, there is the engineer who has a turret, which makes combat easy, but you probably want to get her in early on to set up runs for other people because she can repair doorways and make those easy to explore. She can also, like I said, repair power boxes and so on, so she's big for assisting those future runs. That level of player thought to me is just so damn special. There's also a very satisfying feedback loop for doing runs in the sim that is a counter to pretty much one of the biggest issues I've had with these types of games, where doing those sequential runs almost felt punishing because you always felt like you were leaving empty-handed when you died. You don't have to start off from scratch every single time you complete said runs. You earn sim points. These points are used to buy items through fabrication plans you collect on the moonbase. So in your first ever run of the game, like the first time you're booting it up, yeah, you're hopping in empty-handed. But in this second, you may have found a fabrication plan for a silenced pistol. So in that second run, you can build that and go in with that for starters. And even later on, you might be starting off with a shotgun, pistol, glue gun, some rations, some additional ammo, and even neural mods to level up right off the bat. The exploration is encouraged by this very system because you know you can start off with a leg up on sequential runs, and it's a big difference maker. However, you're trying to balance the corruption level, enemies are getting tougher, you're thinking of future runs. It's a lot of player thought that is being asked for, and it makes it an incredibly mentally engaging experience. Now, Mooncrash is set at $20, and while I've never been a big fan of procedural generation and these, quote, multiple run games, this is one of the more unique takes on it, especially when its narrative, which is also good, is built off of it. Plus, a fantastic gameplay system, one of the most unique out there. This is one I have to say, if you are an owner of Prey, you must buy. Now, sadly, you can't just buy this as a standalone. It is tied to the base game, which I also did say at a lower price was worth a playthrough most definitely. So this is one that I have to say I loved so much. It has been a good year for hidden gems for me personally, between Kingdom Come Deliverance, Vampire, and now this. I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. I just wish that they were getting more attention. And I have to be completely honest, this is one that may actually crawl its way right onto the Game of the Year list. I know it's TLC, but seriously, man, you put a crazy amount of time into it. It's one of the most mentally engaging experiences I've had in gaming in quite some time. The ingenious gameplay systems put into place here, spinning a complete genre on its head and changing my opinion on a type of game, that's no small feat. So I have to say I have a lot of high praise for this DLC, for a game that I was pretty critical on. Kudos to Bethesda for giving Prey a second chance, although they didn't market this one as much. And I really hope for those out there who did enjoy Prey even in the slightest bit, they consider checking this out. It's $20 well spent. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this if you've tried out Prey Mooncrash in the comments down below. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content we create here. Stay sexy, stay active, I love you all, peace.